All right, so we got May 11th, and this is Purple Politics Daily. Got Kamal in the house. This is the way that you'll generally see it once quarantine kind of slows itself down.
So, first topic that we were going to get into. What do we have on the docket?
So first we can talk about maybe I guess just some coronavirus in the White House, like what's going on there.
Yeah, so Mike Pence's assistant tested positive, and a few other people tested positive, I think. And now the whole West Wing is required to wear masks. And I'm like, now, so we're at a place where people are starting to reopen, and you're now telling people to wear masks. Like, isn't this a little too late? Like, maybe stick with the experiment and see what happens. Like, why are you putting on masks now? Like, were you
Well,
thinking like this wasn't going to happen, and then this idea of like this macho look where it's like, oh, you shouldn't wear masks. And like, I'm not saying you should wear a mask, but at the same time, why wait till now to do the whole mask thing?
it doesn't sound like Trump's gonna be wearing a mask anytime soon, though.
Yeah.
He keeps on talking about like this, the CDC reports, and he'll just be like, today he was talking about it as like it's what is it? It's not a volunteer type of thing. He was just like it's a
It's
request.
mandatory.
Yeah, it's not mandatory. So he's like, it's not voluntary. It's voluntary. It's voluntary. So don't worry.
Right.
And then
Well,
Pence's assistant ended up getting caught telling this like panel of business owners who were generally in the food business that they needed to take off their masks before they started this conference with them. I think it was yesterday.
yeah, I mean, it's a level of carelessness that doesn't really make sense. But at this point, we've reached over 80,000 deaths. I don't know what that really means or where we expect to get to. Well, for sure, I mean, if this rate continues, which I feel like it will, we'll probably get to over 100,000. Um,
Yeah, you would think so.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's moving pretty fast. I've been here for maybe 2.5 weeks, and when I first got here, it was 60,000, and we're losing about 10,000 a week, which is not a light number. Um, so that being said, though, I'm really stuck in between, and I'm actually now leaning more towards the side of business because of empathy. I There's a gym in Minnesota that's reopening. I forgot the name of it, and then I think there's a flower shop, and it was an interview, and they were talking about how the gym owners is a vet who opened up, saved up, opened up the gym, and the lady who has the flower shop was crying during the interview, and she's like, "Look, I didn't get a single dollar from this whole PPP thing. I haven't got any stimulus. I haven't gotten anything."
Yeah.
And I'm like, the government cannot tell you to self quarantine and at the same time be so incompetent that they cannot get you the dollar they need. I'm like, so what's the alternative at this point? So let that person's business fail. Let them rob a grocery store. Like, how are they supposed to actually put food on the table? And I think there's a lot of people misunderstanding the pressure that business owners feel. For a lot of people who have not started a business, they don't understand that. And as people who have started a business, you feel responsible for employees. You feel responsible to keep it going for not only your customers but investors. Yes, not at the point where you want to put people's lives at danger, uh, but at the same time, your life is at danger if you cannot actually even go to the store and buy milk to put on the table.
Yeah, I mean, there is a point where like economic issues turn into actual death
Yeah.
for some
Now,
people. Like,
if the government managed the stimulus funding correctly, and that money would have gone to actual real small businesses like this gym owner, like this flower shop, like millions of other, small business owners who did not get a dime because Ruth's Chris and Harvard and Shake Shack, these guys are just sucking up tens of millions of dollars. Then the government in this case has no right to tell a business when and where they can or cannot open up their business.
Right.
If they did do that, if the money did get to them, then I'd be on the side of the government. I'd say, look, the government gave you funding to pay off your employees to put food on the table, like, so you're going to be okay. Keep this thing closed. We're all in this together, but we're not all in this together.
No.
For that reason, I side with the businesses on this one, and I cannot, in good faith, tell them to not open up their business and take in business when they literally haven't received a dollar. What?
Well, I mean, the mismanagement of these funds getting released is just crazy. What they should have probably done is like allocated all the funds based on like the GDP for each of the states, and then allowed like the businesses to delegate it. Not to say that we still should have gotten probably three $1,200 checks a piece, but as far as like the allocation for businesses getting funded, like none of these small businesses got funded. There's not a coffee shop that got funded. Like it's only these either super rich organizations or these really like staple people inside of different cities. Like in Rochester, a few businesses got funded, but it's all like the really predominant, well-connected guys that ended up getting funded, which they should have got funded. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying these are like lifeblood types of organizations in Rochester that should have got funded. But at the same time, it shouldn't take just the people that are hyper-connected to get funded.
Exactly. You know how much I've gotten from the government since this whole shutdown thing happened? I'm talking about any tax returns. I'm talking about a state. I've gotten zero.
Yeah, I'm a goose egg.
Yeah, and I think it's hilarious because the where's my refund thing, when I input my information, it says we don't. Basically, it's like we don't know who you are.
Yeah.
But if I guarantee you, if I move to Kenya next year, the IRS is going to find my address and go, "Have you filed your taxes yet?"
Right.
I know you.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Yeah. I'm just like, are you kidding me? So you know what I did? I did a little test. I went online, and there's another tool you can use. It says for people that haven't filed taxes, you can input your direct deposit information. So I was like, maybe they lost my info, even though I know that my tax return thing says that IRS has and federal and state has accepted my stuff. So I filled that information out, and within like 2 hours, I got a rejection letter from the IRS that's like, hey, this Social Security has already been used by somebody who did file taxes, and those taxes were accepted. So I'm like, huh. So the thing that is supposed to give me a stimulus check is saying they don't know anything about my tax info. So when I fill out the non-filers form and send that in and they're like, actually, no, we've already accepted this. So I'm like, how is it that when it comes to the rejection, you can tell me in 2 hours, but what, now we're mid-May, almost June, and you can't, you know what I mean? I'm like, I don't.
And that's what's goofy is like we both filed taxes last year, even to the point where like we couldn't figure it out, but they took money out of our account.
Yeah, I mean,
like last year we both had money taken out of our account. We were like, what happened there? And they wouldn't even let us understand. Like maybe did we file our taxes wrong? Potentially, yeah, maybe. I don't know. Without understanding, that's possible. Except I like used TurboTax. I did what I was supposed to do. I checked off all the boxes. I sent in everything that I believed it was, and then the government still like went into my bank account and took money out.
Yeah.
which I don't even know if it had anything to do with the taxes that I filed. But then now they're saying that like I didn't know I don't exist.
Yeah. I'm like, but I filed taxes this year too. And like end of February, beginning of March, first week of March, I filed my taxes. So I'm like, you have
Yeah,
my info for 2018 and 2019. Um, and you can, if I try to use my social security number again, you'd be like, nope, this person's already filed and their stuff has already been accepted. Well, then how are you going to act like you don't know me when it's time to send you a check? It's like, I'm like, this is so baffling
it's
that,
confusing.
yeah, I get it. I get why people hate the government. I get it. They suck.
Yeah, it's tough because it's again like I think Trump really had a availability to like do right on this. Like he should have really opened up the floodgates on a monetary level, locked down super hard, but just like flooded the country with money. We would have gone through probably some super hyperinflation, but it's better than depression in the way that we're going to probably deal with it. Um, I understand that his voting base is loving everything that he's doing, but he's not winning any voters in this. That doesn't mean I think the Democrats are winning any voters over this either. I'm just going like Trump had a great way to like win, and he just hasn't done it to anybody that hasn't voted for him before.
Yeah. I mean, now when both sides suck this much, the I think the average person is just going to say, "I'm breaking up with this country. This country is breaking up with me. I'm going to break up with this country." Like because which way? Where do you turn? Who do you go to? At some point, you're just like, "Dude, is this really America? Like, is this what we thought it was going to be? Is this where we thought we would be ending up?" It
Yeah,
just does not make sense. Like, how are we dropping the ball this bad on all levels? It sucks.
I just think
Uh,
that like we really do live in such an interconnected world government kind of now, or at least the world interacts and intersects so vitally for all of us to be able to live like in a healthy way and also in a successful like economic freedom type of way that it's just getting super confusing, right? Because like nobody in the U.S. government did anything to make this virus happen. There wasn't like a breakout within a business that was in the U.S. that like misregulation happened in order to have this virus break out. And now we're all just kind of like everyone in the world is dealing with it. Who knows if I don't think the U.S. is dealing with this any really worse than other parts of the world. But then again, we're not going to be able to tell. But I also don't want to be able to judge ourselves on like, well, we didn't do the worst. Like we should do the best. And I know for sure we haven't done the best. That's like a for sure.
yeah.
I also don't think that we've done the worst, but I feel like we're starting to almost get graded on the worst because now America didn't fuck up the world as far as health goes, but we can fuck up the world as far as the economy goes. So like
Right.
we can't, as the U.S., allow this virus from China to now collapse every other world economy. Like we have the responsibility here to be the leader of the economy. So there is a way for America to totally fumble the ball that almost could affect the world worse than even China fumbled the ball on this one.
Yeah. And that one only time will tell. But
Yeah, we're
I
years
agree
out from
with you. I
that.
think um, the financial ramifications of this is going to be a disaster. And I don't anybody that watches this and goes, well, like, dude, are you trying? You don't care about people dying? It's like, shut up. Of course I do. Everyone does. Like, we need to stop getting out of this like juvenile arguments of saying, oh my God, like, because you want to do this, that means you don't care about people. It's like, that's not the case. We have to be empathetic for people who don't have the privilege to just work from home and earn a paycheck. Like, yes, for a lot of people who can do that, good for you. I'm happy for you. But don't sit on this like high chair type of situation and go, well, just stay at home. It's like Telling people just to stay at home comes from a place of privilege. There has to, if the stay at home would have worked if the government would have managed the funds correctly to get to the small businesses and individuals in a way that made them comfortable to stay at home. That did not happen. And so now uh, people are scrambling to trying to figure out how they're going to make ends meet. And that is, people are going to end up homeless. People are going to lose things that they've built over the last 10 years. We have to be empathetic and think about the fallout of this
Yeah.
beyond just like one level. There's no question the country's thinking about the deaths that are happening. We're all thinking
We
about
just
the
look at
deaths.
that. Everybody in the world, at least in this country, is looking at that ticker every day.
Right. Right. And when it comes to that part of it, it's like, we have to do mass testing. We have to obviously do, everything the CDC recommends. But yet at the same time, we got to ensure that people are not going to have PTSD over this. They're going to lose their livelihood and everything they've ever worked for. I mean, there's so many other fallouts that some people don't want to talk about because if they start bringing it up, everyone else is going to say, well, you just don't care. You don't care about the people. It's like it's not binary.
We can
You know,
care about both.
yeah, it's not mutually exclusive. Like I care about everything. It's and I think we have to start standing up and having that conversation and being like, "Hey, man, government didn't give me squat diddle. Like I didn't get a single thing. So what do you want me to do?"
Well, that's why I wish we could have a better balance of like. I love it when the Republicans are like, "Yo, we got to get out and work," but then I love how the Democrats are sitting around and saying, "Yeah, but we have to understand testing, and these are like the different steps that are important." And I don't care how small of an adjustment that a mask is on the curve. I know that it is an adjustment. I know that like okay, if I cough in this mask, it's instead of it going like 18 feet, it's only going to go like 3 feet or whatever. And we still don't know the true effectiveness, but we know that there's some effectiveness. So let's
Right.
do the sum. Like all
Yeah.
Republicans, like shut the fuck up, wear a mask.
Right.
So then at least everybody else can go, okay, they're willing to take the halfway reasonable steps with me. Now when it comes to should we be able to jog outside? It's like, yes, we all should be able to go outside. The beaches and hiking trails should be open. But we get in all of these weird little like fights where it's like, I'm not even willing to wear a mask. I'm Donald Trump. It's like, well then I can't trust you with anything. Because
Right.
you're so unwilling to even think about this, then it just proves that you're reckless. But I
Yeah.
also don't think we should just sit at home and twiddle our thumbs because we're gonna all be screwed.
Yeah. Exactly. It's almost like we need a purple party. We need somebody. We need people like some sense, some common sense to come back in and say we have to have enough data by now to see who is the most susceptible, and figure out a way to quarantine them, do distancing there. But for everybody else, the people that I've met who are around our age that have had it, it sucked, but they recovered, and I think that that's the hope for everybody else.
Right. We all want to recover.
And it all comes down to testing after that. So,
It was
yeah,
it was pretty funny. So I went out. So there was an announcement last week that like the beaches were open in California. So Newsom like opened up the beaches, and it was really cool. And he announced that they were going to be open on Friday. Uh, Obviously, nobody gets to go to the beaches on Friday because still 50% of our population is working, even though only what 14.7% have applied for unemployment or whatever. But we get to the beach on Saturday and we go down to Seal Beach, which is one of the ones that are supposed to be open. It's just south of Long Beach. And everyone's sitting on the grass, they're not like on the sand. So we're like, yo, the beach is open. And they're like, yes. And we're like, okay, so why aren't you out on the beach? And they're like, well, you can't be on the sand. So we're like, well, what do you mean? And they're like, well, you can't be on the sand, but the beach is open. And they're like, yes. And it was hilarious because there. So unfortunately, there was a fumble. Gavin Newsom said that the beaches were open on Friday. However, he only opened the beaches to activity, which is swimming, jogging, and then one other thing. But you couldn't. You always have to be in transit. But the beaches are only open from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Thursday. They're not even open on Friday. So he opened them on a day that, through the regulation, they're actually closed. And then, but I do like it that it's like based on activity, and it isn't like, okay, the whole sunbathing thing. I don't really care. But we ended up driving further down to Orange County, and we ended up sitting on the beach playing football and stuff. That beach, they just didn't even care.
You're more likely to catch the coronavirus when you're at Whole Foods than you are on a beach.
Yeah.
Like, if we're just being completely honest, right? Everyone's gonna be like, well, Whole Foods is essential. I didn't say that. Yeah, I didn't say that getting groceries was not essential. But how close do you get to people on the beach even before the coronavirus? We've been on beaches. You're further away from everybody. Like, the whole point of going to a beach is so you don't get to be next to people. It's an activity that actually it's naturally social distancing.
Right.
So to open up something where now people are all stuck on the grass, you're just actually you're taking something that was already an ideal social distancing activity that will give people calm, peace of mind, give them a
Yeah.
place to meditate, actually allow us to keep our mind off things and continue, the quarantine longer. These at no cost. And then you turn it into a shit show. It's as if these people don't live amongst normal people.
Well, and how can we not like be just honest and rational about the fact that like there was probably 75 people on this strip of grass that was like probably 25 yards deep and across was maybe like 50 yards. And then they were all looking at this beach that was like till your eye can't see anymore long and like 200 yards deep. And everyone's just like sitting there being like, yeah, it's closed because, we don't want to get sick. And it's like, I'm not going to sit on this grass with you if it is as dangerous as the beaches shouldn't be open, then, and you are reasonable and you're looking at it with that approach, and so you're saying, I'm not going to go on the beach because it's dangerous, I'm going to sit here on the grass, I'm like, you're a crazy person. So I'm like, I don't really believe that it's so dangerous I can't go on the beach, but I sure as hell not going to sit on this grass with you because I don't know what you're thinking about. Like, that's crazy.
Exactly. It's almost as if, like, I was thinking this today. I'm like, am I dead and in a coma and I'm just like dreaming all this shit up? Like, I just don't understand how 2020, like, all these things are happening, like, at the same time, and everyone is acting cuckoo.
Right.
Like, it's just like basic common sense, has left the building. And sometimes I have to, like, I'm like, who also decided what's essential and what's not? Like, who decided that? Because I can argue that a liquor store is not essential. I'm not saying that we should close a liquor store. I'm saying this for the sake of argument. But then a gym is not. I'm like, okay, so are you telling me that I can't go to a gym and wear gloves and lift weights and do my own social distancing, but somehow we felt that it was pertinent enough to keep the liquor stores open? Well, some people need their alcohol. Well, some people need to work out. Like,
yeah.
you can make that. You can make that argument. So it's like, who is sitting around? And we know these people. We've seen them at city council when we're doing events. We've seen these people when we're changing legislation. They're not any more qualified or smarter than you and I or the average person. In fact, sometimes they kind of sit on little cuckoo nest up there and
Hmm.
come up with some of these things, and you're like, what was the rhyme or reason behind that? How is it like you open up the beaches but then didn't open up the beach so everyone would get stuck on the grass, which is square foot is 1/100th of what's on the
Yeah,
beach.
if
So I'm
you
like,
right,
how does this add up?
it's
It's like the
bizarre.
math does not add up. And news. So what's happening is nobody wants to be the first, right? Everyone is scared. Everyone is leading scared, which is unfortunate. And nobody wants to be the first to do things out of fear. If you're doing it because of practical judgment, great.
Yeah.
But if doing things out of fear, so Tom Broik, he's a good friend of ours who for the for the show, give him a little background. He does the Uptown Food Truck Festival. He's canceling it this year. Why? Well, because he's not going to get any licensing because for June. But on the other hand, he was on a call with all the other festival makers in Minneapolis. The Gay Pride, the Uptown, with him, the Made It, whatever, all these festivals. And it's like, well, who, which one of us is going to do it first? And nobody
As
wants to
far
go.
as they don't want to open first.
Yet no one wants to be the first festival to open this summer. And it's not this idea of like, well, like we should do this because it's good, or we shouldn't do this because we don't want to do social distancing. And that mentality is actually being translated all the way up to our government.
Right.
Newsom is thinking like, I don't know, Colorado's not open enough. Well, and then Atlanta's like, Georgia's like, well, we should be the first. Why wait all the way till May something? Let's just do it. Let's not open this up, but let's open up barbershops. It's like, what is going on? Like, there is no like rhyme or reason. And it just feels like it doesn't feel like the United States.
No,
Feels like the shit show
it's all
states
over the
right
place. I do give credit to Newsom though. At least he changes. He rewrites himself quickly and well. So like last 2 weekends ago, the beaches he closed them. This weekend he opened them, but like not really opened them. And then now he really did push on this week for the counties and cities to open. He's like, look, y'all, like these are going to be the factors at place, but like if you want to open on the weekend and you're a county-run beach, like open it up, like make it happen. So I mean, he makes quick transition, but we don't want to leave this open up to just the people that are the most reckless and most irresponsible. Like, there's a responsible way to do it. Like what you're saying, like you don't want to just leave it to some like goofball in Georgia to be like, "Fuck it, I'll do it." Like, that's not how we want to open. But we should
now.
open somehow.
Yeah, and I think that it needs to be like a sort of like a faucet drip that gets wider and wider. Um, but as the longer that the longer that there's not clarity, the longer that you have people who cannot put food on the table, yet the bills are stacking up. The longer all this goes on, people will start to lose faith in the government. And I'm talking about not just like, okay, we're Republicans, we don't like the government, yada yada, and we're liberals and whatever. It's gonna be more like, hey, we just realized you guys don't know what the hell you're doing, and so it's gonna be a free for all. It's gonna be like, well, I'll decide I'll be open tomorrow, and what are you gonna do about it? It's like,
Because
what can they do about it?
that's right. Like, there could be a call with all the barbershops because you would hope there's some level of organization. Like, let's say
There is.
let's say all the food trucks in Minnesota, which you legally can operate a food truck right now.
Okay.
But if all those associations got together and were like, tomorrow we open,
Right.
they're good. You will be fine because
Right.
they wouldn't be able to catch everybody. Obviously, one or two people are going to go down, but if you had the right organization, they would say, we'll fund whoever gets hit together. But we're
Right.
opening up every single barber shop in town. And it's I think it is probably going to get to that in some places, but a lot of these governors are really trying to. I think they are trying to do their best, but we're kind of being graded by unrealistic expectations as a whole. We're not grading ourselves by those same expectations, though. I kind of see us all acting a little bit hypocritically some ways if we're like, well, I have to wear a mask everywhere I go, but like sometimes I don't wear it over here, or I understand that like we shouldn't go to our gym, but it's like I'm going outside and running. Everyone's giving themselves little liberties, like slowly trickling out.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's gonna happen because people don't have a clear view of what's like. So for me, whenever if I go into a grocery store, I always put on my mask. If I am interacting with people, I do. But if it's just me walking down the street, I don't put on a mask. If I go on a run, I'm not putting on a mask. Like it just you have to use some common sense to understand. It's like, yes, it's a coronavirus, but it's not like this is the first virus we've ever had. We know how to deal with viruses. The weird thing about this one is that it's a silent but deadly type of virus where some people would be like, oh, yeah, if it could be completely without symptoms and then still infect somebody else. So that's what's so scary about this one is that it can move so much more silently than any other virus that we've seen in modern time.
Yeah.
That being said, it's still like if you and I are both in a grocery store and you're like down a few aisles from me, just because you see me, like, don't tense up and have PTSD. I had a mask on too. It's just. I think we're underestimating the ramifications of not just the virus, but how we're responding to the virus it's going to be really bad.
Well, I mean, the talking point on the right with this would be, this is the first time that we've ever quarantined the healthy, right? And that's that kind of danger and that fear, and it's not really supposed to strike fear into people. It's just a real thought, which is like we've never quarantined the healthy before. We've never shut down 21st century society like this.
Right.
Elon has some interesting things that he's going on right now. Like, did you watch that Joe Rogan at all?
No, I did not. So give us a recap.
Well, it was a 2-hour thing, but one of the things that I took home the most, outside of some of the technology stuff that he was talking about, which is also crazy, where he's saying that he believes it could be as soon as 5 years that we'll be able to communicate without speaking. He thinks it's going to be more likely 10. But if everything happened the right way, it would be 5. Granted, when we were in San Francisco 5 years ago, everybody said that every car would be driverless in 5 years as well. We're not quite there yet.
Yeah, let's do that first. Let's do machine to machine first before we think we're gonna do human. But keep on.
But it's pretty sick. Like, he's literally gonna drill a hole in your head and put this chip in you, and it will help people who's quadriplegic, who have dementia. Like, he can literally reprogram your brain to maybe even like be able to walk again after major spinal cord injuries. Be able to remember thoughts with a brain that usually wouldn't be able to remember things. But then he also gets into the crazy stuff of being able to upload your brain into the cloud and being able to operate without a body. But where it got really interesting with what he was talking about is in regards to COVID is he's like, do you all not realize that like there's not this like tree that like things just come from? He's like, people make stuff and then you buy it. And he's like, regardless if the government gave you $1,200 every single week, nobody's making anything right now.
Right.
Like, there's not going to be stuff. And he's like, China's been open. He's like, I have 7,000 employees in China, and they've been available to make stuff. I just haven't been able to make stuff stateside. He's like, I have 7,000 employees, no one's died. And China opened like a month ago. He's not saying that we should like sprint out the door right now and everybody should go back to work, but he's like, you don't realize the ramifications that nothing's getting made and there might be nothing to buy at some point here if we don't like re-engage this thing. And then now, as recently as today, like he opened his factory up. He's like, well, I don't care what Governor Newsom has to say. Like, Tesla's fully running as of today. So,
Yeah, and
we'll see how it goes.
yeah, let's see what I'm sure, or at least I'm hoping that they're making this decision. There's a lot of adults that work there. I hope that they will clean and sanitize more than ever before. That they're going to wear gloves as if they work in a kitchen, take them off as often as possible. Somebody feels sick, they stay at home, and then everyone wears masks at work. And then let's see. The thing that's crazy to me is that, so as you know, my family started the hot chicken food truck, and there's been a poultry shortage, and so I'm talking about like U.S. foods, companies that like you never see shortage at. So the story is the South Dakota poultry plant that basically covers at least all of the Midwest. They tested 1,000 workers, and all 1,000 workers tested positive. But and all of them had no symptoms. So I'm just like, what? Like, how do if we had real testing, would we find out that like we actually all already have the coronavirus?
Yeah, I don't know.
At least majority of people, because I think that would give so many people peace of mind. But oh, I already got it. Okay, so I'm good.
If I could get the coronavirus, I would be like those inmates in California who gave each other the corona.
Is that what they did?
Dude, so this one prison, a Los Angeles County prison, jail or something like that, 50% of the inmates tested positive. Now, this video just came out today, so I wouldn't be surprised if the criminal justice system is lying about this. But they have this video of these guys, they're passing around this water bottle. They're all taking a swig of it, and then there's a mask that they're all taking a whiff of. And supposedly, it's a mask from the person with corona, and the bottle was like a corona bottle. And so every inmate was like, wait, I might be able to get free if I get this corona. So they're huffing the mask and drinking the water. And you do see the mask in the water bottle get passed around a room of like 40 guys. It's pretty funny.
My brain is just like.
I would maybe do it though. If you said like this has corona on it, I would maybe spray my face. At this point.
I mean, especially if you're an inmate and that's a way you can get out, like, bro, I'm puffing twice, bro. Puff fast, bro. Yeah. So, last but not least, Ahmaud. Obviously, a very tragic situation. There's not really, at least for me, there's not really a point of going over the story, which I think everybody already knows, but rather wanting to talk more about the stuff that we're not discussing, which is the justice system in the United States is not blind and has not been blind for a very long time, maybe since the inception of this country. And what is happening is that to me right now, the invention of video, especially camera phones, is acting as a mirror to this country and showing us blemishes and showing us where we're falling drastically short. It's showing us things that we honestly didn't want to be part of our country, but it is. Um,
Hmm.
and I think it is time to look at these things and say, okay, either we need a major overhaul or we need to, figure some things out. And one of them, I think, as a minority, I'm thinking about, getting my carry concealed this year just to at least not to have anything on me, but at least I want to learn how to use and at least be like, okay, I need to understand what is it about the Second Amendment. I need to understand that a lot more. And I think a part of that is like stepping into that world and saying, okay, let's learn about it. But yeah, the justice system is not only has it failed, but we've seen it so clearly fail. And uh, with this one, I think everyone's going to be watching it closely to see where it goes, not only with the people that took his life, but also what's going to happen to the DA, what's going to happen to the local law enforcement, who dropped the ball. How is it that somebody gets a bullet put in their body and then there's not actually a formal investigation? The fact that law enforcement can have the decision to not do due process is unthinkable. So we definitely need a major overhaul, and we need to come to grips with the fact that um, our justice system is not blind, and it favors not only those that are rich, people that they're friends with, people that are in their same circles, um, and obviously in this situation, uh, race is unfortunately once again a large factor.
Right. Well, and it's one of those things which, with great empathy, you have to look at this type of thing, right? Like, people have to stop disconnecting their emotions towards these types of matters. Like, this is a tragedy. This is a person dying, and not dying in the way of like a coronavirus, but actually with like a malicious intent, with someone taking their life. It's a different type of thing. It's a much more disturbing, much more disgusting type of thing. And for our government to not react appropriately towards that is bizarre. Like,
Right.
I want every single person in the government to take death very, very seriously, and and then murder when it's subject to potential like hate crime or race stuff, you gotta level up. It's a whole nother thing again. And for anybody to like try to say that there's not a problem in our criminal justice system, I just go back to logic. Go take a tour of a jail. Like, it's disproportionately people of color. Like, there's a freaking crisis at hand. And unfortunately, you get a video like this. And thank God we have the video, right? Because as disturbing as the video it is, at least it's gonna hopefully push towards getting some level of justice for this person and their family, even though everything's already lost when it really comes
Yeah.
to me. But
Yeah.
what sucks with these videos is we don't know if this is an anomaly or if this is something that happens 1,000 more times. As a viewer of it, we're all lost and going, oh my gosh, like, does this happen every single day in America? Or is this like a random occurrence that just happened at this? But it doesn't matter. Either way, this video matters, and this life matters. Let's handle it accordingly. So too much gets lost in like these statistical arguments of, well, this never happens, or well, this did happen. This particular instance happened, and then other people are trying to claim that, you know, it's they're just we get way too far away from the real conversation at hand. And the biggest conversation with this is they didn't do anything for like 70 days about this until the video showed up.
Right.
I'm so sick of the public having to be judge and jury on this without our judicial system stepping up and doing it for us. We pay tax dollars for this. We've already laid out the rules that if you shoot somebody and you do it maliciously, you're supposed to go to jail. Like, pretty easy and straightforward. Like,
Yeah.
if someone lost their life, like, put them at least,
Yeah.
like, a trial should have started. Come on.
Yeah, like why do we have to petition? Like we shouldn't have to petition something that we've already paid for. It's like do your job. You get paid to do your job. Why is it that we are now petitioning for you to do your job?
Yeah, it's in it. But another thing that I'm getting more and more bothered by is, and this might be a theory, or this might be not a truth, but from my understanding, if you were like a trained boxer, your hands are like lethal weapons. So if Mike Tyson punches somebody in the face, it's different than if I punch somebody in the face and they die. Because I might hit somebody in the face and not intend to kill them. But if Mike Tyson hits somebody in the face, yo bro, you know that you have a real skill and weapon here. We're going to kind of try him differently than we're going to try you.
Right.
We have to start having bigger, like, sentences happening with individuals who are in law enforcement and are a part of these types of things. I think a police officer that gets accused and charged of malicious murder should go away for double the time.
Right.
The same way as if it's a hate crime. It's like, okay, oh, you were a cop. Check. That's double the time.
Yeah. I mean, there's been videos of like cops who plant, drugs on people. And then after a while, now it's like not only is there an eradication of trust into our justice system, our law enforcement system, our government in general, but I think that with video, I'm hoping that, the white counterparts in the United States are seeing why the black community is so distrusting of law enforcement, of why it's so, essentially like F the police, because there's so many situations we've seen. I mean, just in the past 10 years since had video, there's so many instances. I can't even, there is an instance where a guy is working with a kid who's autistic in Florida, and he was laying on the ground, spread like he was doing snow angels, and saying, "I promise you, and they're behind their squad cars with their guns out. I'm just like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And he gets shot. And then watch a video a month or two later with this guy without a shirt on his lawn, and maybe he's had an anxiety attack, but he's got his gun out and he's yelling at them, and he comes out alive. Not one bullet is thrown his way. And I'm like, it's almost like we're not living in the same country. And so when I first moved to the United States, I didn't understand why, I was like, why, to be completely honest with you, I was like, why is it that black people are protesting? Like, why is it that they want the white, whatever, like, why is that needed? Why is Martin Luther King saying X, Y, Z? And I've come to realize that, like, we are a country where in order for bills to pass, in order for legislation to pass, we need the representatives and the body of people to look at something and say, this is wrong. And until a majority of white people, and I think you're starting to see that now, but like not just like white people in Cal, but like all across the country look at it and say it's a problem, then it's not going to have enough momentum to actually make a real impact because white people are the majority in the country.
Yeah.
That is why we have the protests and the petitions and all that stuff, because it's like, look, this group doesn't have enough votes to make things happen on their own. They can make a lot of noise, but not enough votes. And until some people say, okay, your problem is now my problem, then things are actually not going to change. And so this is where, you know, the disconnect sometimes happens. And sometimes I look at it and go, look, man, if we both watch the same video and if you don't see that there's something wrong, then I, what, like, as a minority, what could you do about that? Because you're just like, there's nothing else that I know that I can do that's going to help you realize that this is a problem. And so this type of tragic situation is going to continue until enough people come on to this side and say, okay, let's have real change.
Right. We're luckily, like, across the board, everyone's saying this is a problem, but like, can we do like the next step to make sure that this stops happening? Like,
Right.
this life has already been lost. Like, it's over.
Yeah.
We got to make sure that we're protecting the next person who could be subjected to this type of thing. We got to make sure that this doesn't happen again. And I don't know
Yeah.
the answer to that. Like, I think we're all in the same board that we don't want this to happen. What I really don't like with some of these white Republicans that try to justify it at all is
Yeah.
they will, like, they're the first people that say, if the government doesn't serve me, fuck them. That's why the white right has their guns. It's the reason that they care so much about the Second Amendment. And I actually understand this to be like, I actually get why they're saying this, but they're like, I have my gun just in case the government goes erratic and I need to, like, basically take my rights back, right?
Right.
And they're the first to go up on the State House steps and saying, you're not serving me, I'm no longer fucking listening to you. And why they can't sympathize with black and brown people in a time like this, going like, well, this is the government not serving them. Why are you surprised that they're pissed? It's like, dude,
Right.
you would be the first group also. Like, you're so similar in all of this. Like, how can you not
Right.
empathize with it?
Yeah, I think about that all the time, and I'm just like, yeah, if you are saying like, yeah, you want your Second Amendment to protect yourself from the government, the law enforcement is the government. It's a local form of the government, but it's still government. And at the end of the day, that same fear that you may have is something that's actually realized in a lot of the black and brown community. And so seeing situations where police officers would be handing out masks in the suburbs, and then yet in like the inner city would be like trying to beat up on people and take them to jail. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to protect people by beating them up and taking them to jail and then exposing yourself to crime? Like, what are we doing here?
Because, like, the true, like, white privilege in this situation, and I've done it myself and I've experienced it with friends of mine, is like the white community is able to kind of shape the police up into saying, without having their life be lost doing it, which is
Right.
like, no, you're not going to treat me like this. Like, get out of my fucking face. Like, you were acting unlawfully. I'm not leaving this park. It's 10 p.m. I can be here. Like, go away. You know, I like
Right.
remember this happening in high school. We'd be like snowboarding, or we'd be like hanging out in a park, and the police would like be crazy people and like drive from both sides into this park and like push their cop cars up on us, thinking that we were drinking. And they would be like, "Hey, you all have to leave the park." And we're like, no, we don't. And are you all drinking? And they're like testing us all, and they want to give us breathalyzers, and we're like, look, get out of here. Like, you have no reason to be here. And the white privilege of that situation was they freaking laughed because they knew they were wrong. They didn't shoot us and end up telling everybody that, hey, there was a bunch of kids out there that were causing trouble, like, we saved your whole community.
Yeah, exactly. Because that wouldn't fly. Yeah, yeah.
And
And so
so,
that's why it's important to have, that level of representation. And I think I've told you this story before, but I'll repeat it for the show. I remember the first time I went to New York, I saw a guy getting arrested, and he was getting put in the back of a squad car. But I walked past these two cops, and for some reason, this time around, like I didn't look at them as cops. I looked at them as like two human beings who just happened to be cops, and I didn't feel that weird sense of like fight or flight type of situation when I was around them. And I was like, wait, why is that? Is it because I'm in a bigger city? Is it because people are around me? And I was like, wait, actually, it's two cops and they're both black. And I was like, oh, okay. And as weird as that sounds, it's not just because of how I saw them, but because of how I thought they saw me. And I was like, they're looking at me as a human being. And because, I was like, we're the same person, but he just has a badge on. And so if something would ever happen to me, I could talk to them in a reasonable way and they would understand me. And that's, I think, what's missing for a lot of people in the, community of minorities in color and whatever, what else not, is that representation and misunderstanding that happens. So,
and I think you lead to a good point where it's like, that I think is one of the biggest problems with people that are racist and people that are subject to being suppressed through racism is if like this is it Travis McMichael,
who are you talking about?
the guy who shot Ahmad.
Actually, I don't even know their names.
Yeah, but the problem stems from him being scared of Ahmad, because that's racism. Like, he thinks that like Ahmad has a gun, or he thinks that Ahmad is a criminal, and he thinks all of these different negative things about Ahmad before he's met Ahmad. So,
right, because and that's why he feels so justified to even take his life.
exactly. He goes, this person is a dirty criminal. I can take his life. He's been no good. He will be no good. Blah, blah, blah. And what happens with racism, it's one, the black individual sitting there looking at the white guy being like, look, I'm in the South. I've heard a lot of bad things about white guys in the South. You're a guy with a gun. I'm not talking about this particular situation. I'm just saying in like the grand scope of racism in general. That black person has a lot of reasons to be scared of that white guy. Because he's like, I've heard about you. I've heard it's bad. And then that white guy has all of these stupid facts and figures in his head where he thinks he needs to be scared of the black guy. And now we've created this huge fake tension in the air that then leads to all of these disasters. When both people, if they could actually have met themselves in a calm, cool, collected space, they would both realize that they probably have more in common than they could ever imagine. And
the only issue, and yeah, I agree with a lot of what you said. The only issue is that the black guy is not the one who is getting in a pickup truck and then chasing the white guy to be like, "I've heard about you." You know what I mean?
No,
He's
I'm
just
not.
trying to go
I'm not saying that he's at any fault. He's at literally zero fault. I'm saying that culturally we've ramped up this tension for us all to have these deep systemic understandings of the different side. Now, me and you, we're luckily like we know we have so much in common. We went to the same school. We've had a friendship for 12 years. But these two, and specifically the white guys that shot this guy, have maybe had no relationship ever with a black man in their life. So they just ground down these crazy stereotypes in their head that they feel like they're supposed to meet this black man with like all of this like resentment and all of this fear and all this hatred. It's like, holy shit, how can we rewire all of these things for
Right,
this
like
tension
you get to
isn't
the
like
point of doing that, yeah.
it's just totally on fire before you could ever even imagine it. So both sides are looking at each other with fear, and sadly, fear for a reason, right? But the white fear is the root of the problem in this particular case, which that leads him to fucking bring out a gun and shoot this guy, thinking that he's a fucking animal. And
Yeah, well, and the fact that he like, what made him even feel like it was okay? Like the fact that he felt like justified enough to be like, you know what, I I'm the type of person who could take the law into my hands. Like you don't really see people in the community, communities of color of being like, you know what, I'm gonna play law enforcement today. I know that he was a former law enforcement guy, but the fact that
yeah,
he felt emboldened and empowered enough to do something like that. I'm like, wait, what? Like, why do you think you play enforcement? We actually hire people to do enforcement. Like that's and the we
yeah. I
already
mean,
have
I think there's things in people's head to want to protect and serve a little bit.
yeah, and but
Uh,
at the end of the day, he ended an innocent man's life, and then now he's gonna possibly end his life too. You
Yeah,
know,
I'm
just
not. No, I'm not saying that. What his? I don't think that. Well, this is. We're gonna see this play out. I don't know if the dad was thinking what the son was thinking. Like I have no idea how it's gonna play out with all of those types of things. Because the dad was on the call with the police when he got shot.
so who did the actual shoot? Was it the son who shot
The
did the
son
shooting?
shot him. So the facts of this story are obviously starting to get more convoluted and get more tied down. Not in any way that Ahmad should have got shot and that his life should have get taken. But
Right.
there's more confusion of what the heck was going on. So there had been Ahmad had been in this particular house a few different times, and somehow the person with this house has a bunch of cameras on it, which I think is kind of bizarre. But the person with the house has said, no one has ever stolen anything from my house.
Right.
I've never sent out a police report because my house was broken into. I'm just in this construction project and nothing's been stolen. I've never had the police call to my house. Nothing, no problem here. The
Right.
community has seen what they believe to be Ahmad going in and out of this house a few different times. They were slowly getting more and more pissed by it. It sounded like Ahmad and the dad had already had an interaction, or he had saw Ahmad leave the house, and
Based on what the dad is saying.
based on what the dad is saying, and he had his like hands in his pants, and he thought Ahmad might have a gun on him. Then there'd been a series of break-ins within this community in like January, and supposedly a gun got taken out of the son's truck like a month ago. So that's why their belief is that he could have potentially been armed while he was running. But like all of these claims are only claims. There's not facts with all of this stuff right now.
Right.
But
So
then
and so it comes down. So okay, let's say that we're arguing this as a court case, right? So that is the claims that they're gonna make,
one of the murderers is making,
right? So like, let's say all those,
trying to justify everything.
yeah, yeah. So let's say that those are the claims that they make. At the end of the day, if one, mind your damn business, right? It's like if somebody's not coming into your house and so like, and they're not doing anything with your place, and they're not breaking into your house, the rest of it is none of your business. If you see somebody whose house is getting built and somebody's walking through it and you don't know what's going on, call that neighbor and be like, hey, I keep seeing this guy going through your house. I just want to give you a heads up. If you don't think that's enough, call the police.
Well, that's what's weird. So, like, one of the next, the cops got called twice within this 10-minute period from the time that he goes into the house, neighbor calls the cops. And then somehow Travis and his dad end up hearing and seeing what's going on. Travis, the dad goes, holy shit, that's the guy who's been going into that house. Let's track him down. So now they're on their little freaking hunt.
Right. So that right there is the epitome of the whole entire problem, right? This guy is not going into their house. Let's say, and I'm playing devil's advocate, right? We're gonna just say everything that they're claiming is correct, right? If you fear somebody, you're not chasing them. You're not trying to corner them into a situation. Now, if you are in your own home and somebody breaks into your home and you fear them, yes, like you might take any necessary measures to save the lives of the people around you because that's a fight or flight. But it's not a fight or flight to load up your guns, get into a truck, and somehow close off the road. That at that point is privilege of thinking that you're gonna play cop. It's privilege of thinking that like you know what's best, that you have the right to almost play judge and jury, that you decide all these things. And why do you live in a world that allows you to think in that way? That to me is the problem. Now, because again, you're not seeing people in in the other communities, and actually just the average person, regardless of skin color, is not thinking like, "Hey, let me go chase this guy down with my guns loaded," because I saw that maybe he was walking through a house, maybe he wasn't. Like, it's just like
I get why, why if you saw someone going into your neighbor's house, you would call the cops.
yeah,
Like if it's like, oh, like let's say Kamal, like you're building a house down the street from me and you don't live there yet, and I knew you, I'd be like, oh shit, like that's not Kamal, like I'm gonna call 911. The track down effort, I truly believe that these guys are racist, and I think they used this opportunity in a really sick way to like their advantage to role play this scenario in their head that
they've always thought about.
Yeah.
Like,
and I think it went as
yeah.
I mean,
like they dreamt about it.
Yeah, I think the role play in their head was a nightmare that they never even imagined. But I think they seized the moment to play vigilante, and they knew that this person could die when they went out. When you load your gun and you go out like that, you have to know that that gun might go off. And sadly, because this guy is a cop, he knows by law you cannot actually chase after somebody who hasn't committed a felony on site at your site. So like he didn't. So even by law, like they're totally not even in the right. And then from the get go, like where some people are like, oh well, it's Georgia, like you can load up a gun and you can be vigilante. Like there's a law for that. And it's like actually not when it comes to this. It has to be a felony that happens to you, and you can basically like protect yourself and create a citizen's arrest if you see that felony take place. He didn't commit a felony. It's not illegal to go walk through a construction site.
Right.
Like so, nothing about that happened. So anybody who's trying to justify any of those claims, it's out the door.
Yeah.
They played through a fantasy in their head and they committed a vile hate crime.
Yeah. And I don't know, and it's sad, right? Because they lived in this like parallel universe where I felt like they assumed that they were going to get a parade for this or something. At least to be like, oh my god, like wow, if it wasn't for, what's his name and his son, like this guy was gonna just terrorize the whole community. Like this is something that has, to me, it's like the son was brainwashed by the dad, who maybe was brainwashed by his dad or somebody else in the community. Like it's something systematic, you know, being when you see generations of people being poor, that's systematic. When you see racism, like I'm not talking about like prejudice or ignorant. I'm talking about the type of like racism where you're like, I get to play hero today and I
Right.
might shoot this guy. You know what I mean?
Well,
Like
and
that is deep, deep hatred.
and just to play out like a potential scenario in my head, where this would kind of prove how racism won't how it can affect everybody around you is maybe this dad, because he was a police guy, takes out a gun, has said racist things in the house, said maybe already racist things about Ahmad, right? About him breaking into the neighbors or that type of stuff. But maybe he actually expected to do a citizen's arrest that day. The dad. Because he's on the call with the police when his son shoots him. But it just shows how that level of mentality can trickle down to like, you're being a vigilante, you're trying to stop the bad guy. You've built this freaking thing up in your son's head where your son's pulling a trigger right next to you, not even thinking twice. Like, it's like, damn, that's actually like systemic racism creating like a real tragedy right before your eyes. And it goes from not just being systemic to a point of like, this is reality, this is disaster, this is death.
Yeah. And then from there, getting to the point where, so it doesn't even get investigated until the video leaks and there's enough petitions to get it investigated. This would have been swept right under the rug. So it is a problem of obviously, yes, personal racism, but then when it turns into institutional racism is when the DA looks at it and goes, okay, black body on the ground, um, former police officer, it's probably what he said.
Why? I just don't understand in our system why this can happen. And we know the person who covered it up, or at least we're starting to get the evidence of it. Why don't they go to jail?
To me, and I'm not speaking for anybody else, not the mom or their family or anything else, but I think the real crime, yes, it is a real crime to take somebody's life, but the DA to me is worse off than the criminals who killed him because we have criminals all across the country. People take people's lives all the time, but our justice system will say, okay, so and so killed so and so, you're going to go to jail. Like, we're going to investigate this. The fact that the DA did not do that is creating a breach of trust for the entire, law enforcement agency, which wasn't that great to begin with.
With the video, like how did they think that like this was right at all?
Yeah.
Like,
And
think about what they do without a video. Like, holy shit.
Right. And so like what happened? It's like where is how did we even get the video? Was it somebody in the attorney's office leaked it? Because they were just like, dude, there's no way that they kind of were like, well, okay, I know this is wrong, but my superior says I gotta let it go. So what if I leak it so that there's actually justice? Like And it's one of those situations where justice had to happen outside of the judicial system,
Yeah.
for it to actually even have a chance.
Well, it's where originally it was reported that like the third party was most likely like this malicious person that like deserves to also be prosecuted, which that's not to say that he maybe shouldn't. It's been interesting to hear the commentary on who this guy is. It sounds like he's like a weirdo in the community that like saw this was going on and he knew something bad was going to happen, but he's like this weird loner. And he's like, oh shit, the McMichaels are leaving the house. I just saw Ahmad. Like, I'm putting a camera on this. So at least that's how they're trying to play him out right now. It'll be interesting. It would make more sense of how this video got out that he was like, I want no part in it.
Yeah, I mean, if he leaked it, then I think that we should say, okay, this guy, had a conscience and saw the situation, and leaked it. And if he purposefully leaked it, we have to thank him for leaking it, because we see a situation where a son and a dad, murdered a guy
Right.
for absolutely no reason. And, if he was part of like the hunt to corner him so he can't go anywhere.
Well, he is part of that though. So he was like behind them, and I think they went in front of him. They tried to stop him once, and Ahmad just kept on like running or something like that, or turned back around, and then they cornered him again. Then this guy named like Rossi or whatever it is, who's the cameraman, Ahmad is running towards him. This Rossi guy then turns his car in order to kind of block the street for Ahmad. So Ahmad then starts running back towards the truck, and everything else pursues. So that's where it's like, it's super weird where this case just continues to get more awkward. But then again, it's still black and white to me at the end of the day. Like, you can spit out whatever facts you want. These guys shot this guy for no freaking reason.
Yeah, like that did not have to happen, because there was nothing that he did. Like, he didn't, and even let's say he went inside the house and he took something. That is not a death sentence. Like, that didn't in no way justify his death. But we all know he didn't take anything. The person who owns the place is like, I put cameras up. If I see a problem, I'll take care of it. I think it goes back to what you said before. They had this movie built up in their head, like this moment for them to shine. And they took this moment and said, we don't know how often something like this is going to come around. And subconsciously just went for it. And now it's tragic. And they were free. They were free people, before, like 10 minutes before they killed an innocent man. And now, they get the electric chair or be in jail for the rest of their life.
Yeah, it's not gonna be good for the son.
Yeah.
I can't imagine that he'll ever get out of jail. And
Yeah.
and they're in Georgia too, so I'm guessing the death penalty is possible.
Yeah, I think it is.
I'm not a death penalty person, regardless of the fact that they gave Ahmad the death penalty. They were judge and jury and executioner in this, which is fucking bullshit. Still not a death penalty person, but
Yeah,
I think they might.
I think the death penalty is cruel, and it's also an easy way out. I think it's cruel on behalf of a civil society, and it's an easy way out. I'm like, nah. I think it's better if you sit behind jail for the rest of your life and rot, so you can kind of, feel what you did. You don't get to just leave and just be done.
Yeah.
You know.
Because like if the guy's going to hell, like eternity will wait. You know what I mean? So it's like, I'd also like you to wait a little bit here.
Yeah, like sit in a cell and figure out, like, think about what you did and like face those demons, because they are gonna come and haunt you. They're not going anywhere.
No,
When
chilling.
When you realize that, yeah, hey, at some point when the veil is uncovered from your eyes and you realize that you took an innocent man's life. Like, hopefully he'll feel that torment, and it'll be real.
Well, dude, if this guy goes to Georgia State Penitentiary, I mean, it's gonna be disproportionately African American. I guess it breaks off in tribes, right? So you have like the Hispanics, the blacks, the whites. So I mean, he'll fit in good with the white supremacists or whatever. But like,
Yeah, but he's going to be a high profile target. He's not just like any other white supremacist. Like, this is something that's like, I'm sure that they've seen inside. And so there's a difference between, the other groups attacking, the black group attacking white supremacists inside of the jail. It's going to be a situation where it's like he's going to become like target number one in jail.
they're gonna probably get him.
They're going to put all their resources behind him because he's a symbol now.
That would be weird if you're in jail for life and you know you're never gonna get out. And like, let's say moral compass or not, like a guy like that lands in there, you gotta be like, damn, dude, we gonna whoop some ass today.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like you're gonna feel that it's gonna be some. We'll see.
We'll see. I don't know what else is even going on this week. It's kind of a slow week.
Yeah, I mean, I think we covered kind of the main topics we were going to cover.
It's a good one. You guys just hustling the rest of the week then?
Oh yeah, we've got lunch in Northeast, and it's starting to get crazy. People are, it's. I don't know where it's gonna go, but we're at a point now where it's, I think, where it's like it's time to get a restaurant.
Nice.
People are like, restaurant right now, it's like in the middle of COVID. I'm like, yeah, prices are dropping, and this is a good time.
I know.
So,
I'm kind of excited to see where LA rent goes.
oh my God, please drop. Like, that should be dropping.
Yeah, it's gonna.
Because I think that's why iRent dropped, right? Like, because this last one was.
Well, that new owner bought it, and I feel like they just aren't even fighting the fight. Well, because like when you're in now, it makes sense why they were raising a rent so much because they were trying to sell the property, so they're trying to prove out value. But now you kind of have to, once you buy a property, you kind of have to get back to rationality and
Yeah,
just like drop rents off. And
yeah.
now
I
it's
mean, I
just
think
another
that's why maybe because they knew they were negotiating, they were on their way out, so they're just like, well, I would fix the pool. It's not our problem.
I know that definitely happened. Yeah, the pool's not. The comic book shop's finally out.
What do you mean out? Like they're closed?
Yeah, they're done. They out. They totally
Dude,
ripped up everything.
everybody is like, yeah, rent is gonna go down.
I know. I'm thinking about going to that building and just being like, "Yo, I'll ditch the apartment. Give me that comic book store, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That'd be
It's
sick.
also
It'd be
like,
awesome, like warehouse vibe in the city, right next to Grow. That'd be a sick apartment.
like turn it and just like put like the couches in the front, put a big TV, and in the back is the rooms.
Yeah, it'd be a
Why
cool
not?
vibe.
Yeah, I mean for $3,000 a month, fuck it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, just we'll pay the same. Like, it'll be cool.
Yeah, it'll be good.
All right,
All
man.
right, sounds good. I think I'm gonna hit the hay.
Yeah, it's later for you. All
Yeah.
right. Good talking to you. Godspeed, and see you soon.
Much love. We'll talk soon.